Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard video, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive on the new Attilan Rough Riders that GW has just revealed on Warhammer Community. Now don't worry if you missed the official reveal by Games Workshop, I'm going to have a link down in the description to the Warhammer Community article that talks all about Rough Riders. Now in case you haven't seen one of these deep dive videos before, what I like to do is go over the model in as much detail as possible, picking out all the cool little bits and comparing it to other cavalry models that you can find for the Guard. Although, of course, the last Attilan Rough Riders were in 2009, so these models are going to be very, very different to them. But if that sounds like something you like the sound of, then please stick around. And of course, if I'm aware of any rules leaks or rumours surrounding these models, I'll be covering those throughout the video as well. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this video and take a look at the new Attilan Rough Riders for the Imperial Guard. Now, the first thing to say is I love the new Rough Riders. I think they look really, really good. I think GW has not only kept the feel of the original metal Attilan Rough Riders, but they've also managed to bring in loads of new features and make these models unique. So overall, I really like the Rough Riders. I know they're not going to be for everybody, but I think for me personally, I'm a big, big fan. Overall, with most of the models that GW has revealed so far, I've been a big fan of them. I've been really enjoying them. There have been some things which I've not agreed with, little gripes and stuff, but overall I think GW's done a really good job with the range refresh of the Imperial Guard. Another overall thing that I want to talk about is the fact that they kept them as Attilan Rough Riders. I am really surprised by that. I honestly thought GW was going to go for a more generic Rough Rider cavalry style model that they would be able to copyright. You know, they'd make it look really imperial and also one that could fit in with any army whatsoever. But no, they decided to keep with the Attilan theme. On the one hand, I really respect that. It's a throwback to the old models. It does have that little sort of nostalgia feel to it. But on the other hand, I personally probably would have preferred actually just getting generic Rough Riders, something that I could plug into both my Steel Legion, Krieg, and Mordian armies. But now that we've talked about the general vibe of the model, let's drill down into some of the specific bits that make up this new cavalry kit. The first thing that I want to talk about is this head. Now, I think this head really does make the models look very Attilian, and if I was to swap this over to another regiment, it would be the first thing that I would swap over. I do think the models do look generic enough that with a simple head swap, they're going to look good with most regiments. But for me, this head is the bit that I'm going to swap out first. Now, don't get me wrong, I quite like it. It's a good reimagining of the classic Rough Rider head. It hasn't got a huge ruffle like the old one did, but it does have a prominent one, and it definitely does make the model feel like a classic Attilan Rough Rider. For me personally, though, I doubt I'm going to build any of my models with these Attilan heads. I'm probably going to swap mine out for either our BT's heads to make like police cavalry for my Mordians, or some ones with some cavalry, some sort of classic cavalry helmets, or some Mordian field caps, or for my Steel Legion and Krieg, I'll probably just swap these out for some gas mask heads. I actually really like the look of this helmet when you scroll down and get to see it on the sideways view. I think that looks really, really good. I think what's a real shame is if GW just hadn't added that Attilan ruff round the side there, this would look like a really, really cool helmet with an extended, you know, back bit of neck armor and sort of face and cheek plates. That would have actually looked really, really good. I really hope that there is an option where you don't need to have the ruff on the top of the helmet, the furry hat. I really hope there is just an option with just the back armor, the back neck armor, and the face plates, because that would be perfect for generic cavalry. Taking a look at the faces as well, you can obviously see on that first picture we had the classic Rough Rider Mongolian style mustache, but you can also see there are ones that aren't mustachioed in the background here, and some even wearing like riding goggles as well. So if you're not a big fan of having all your guys beardy or mustachy, there will be head options, it looks like, to have them without the mustache and without the beards, which I think will again make them look a lot more generic. But I think overall, I imagine that a lot of people are going to head swap these guys. Now, moving on to the top part of the model here, we've got the shoulder pads. Now, I really like the shoulder pads. Interestingly, these are like the old Cadian shoulder pads. We can get another good look at them down here. They're a little bit slimmer, but they're not like the Cadian shock troop ones that we've seen that have got double ridges. These ones are clearly single ridge, single piece shoulder pads, very similar to the old school Cadian ones. For me, I think that's kind of a good sort of reference to the fact that these guys come from a feudal world, from a cavalry world. They're not going to have the latest body armor. They're probably going to be making do with older marks of kit. Taking a look at the rest of the greatcoat, you can see it's got an unexaggerated collar, and it's actually a fairly generic greatcoat, and I'm totally okay with that because that means it'll be easy to include these models in any of your Imperial Guard regiments. Couple of smaller details to note around the greatcoat. We appear to have a leather cross strap, a leather belt coming across the chest of the model. You can see a little ammo pouch down here, and also you can see a golden belt buckle that may even have an Aquila on it, which will make a nice difference to the infantry belt buckles we've seen, which have all had skulls on them. Whilst we're on this part of the model, one bit I don't like is the hands and gloves. I think that the gloves look fine till you get to the fur trim. I think that's just, again, makes them look a bit too Attilian. It's going to make it a little bit more difficult for converting. You're going to have to scrape that fur trim off if you want. I think overall, if they just not gone with the fur hat and the furry gloves, these models would have looked great. I don't know anyone that was asking for specific Attilian Rough Riders to come back. I think people just wanted Rough Riders in general to come back for Guard. Look, I'm really happy we're getting Rough Riders back. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to be picking up like 30 of these bozos. But again, I definitely think it would have been cool if they'd made them a little bit more generic. Hopefully, there'll be part swaps and bit swaps that allow that within the kit. Another little fine detail here is the water bottle here is very reminiscent of the old Cadian style water bottle, not the current one, which is a bit different. This is the old Cadian one. You can see it's in the leather pouch. It's got the skull and wings on it. So again, the whole vibe I'm getting from these guys is they've turned up to the Departmentum Militarum after being shipped off planet. They've all turned up in like their chainmail and their old school armor. And the Departmentum Militarum's gone, look, get rid of all that shit. That's not going to help you. Here's some older pattern flak armor. Here's some older pattern water bottles, all that kind of stuff. That's the vibe I'm really getting from these Rough Riders, that they've been given like second line equipment because they're sort of from a feudal world. Moving on, we can see that there is a las pistol on the model here. Now, GW did confirm that all these guys are going to come with las guns in addition to the hunting lances, but I have been told on the down low they're also going to get las pistols. Not that it's going to make a huge difference. You're probably not going to want to use them very much, but apparently they will be getting las pistols and las guns and hunting lances. So these guys are really decked out with quite a lot of equipment. Taking a look at the rest of the back of the horse model, we can see that we've got loads of storage and bedrolls and ammo pouches and all sorts of stuff. We've got them coming around the front here. The vibe of this model is that it definitely feels like someone that could go on like an extended journey without needing to stay with the supply chain, which is exactly what Rough Riders are. They are scout cavalry, which occasionally get massed up with big cavalry charges, but traditionally they are recon units. So it's great to see that, and it definitely leans into that whole we can go on extended scouting trips kind of vibe, which is perfect for the Rough Riders. Coming around to the front of the horse here, it's much more armored. You can see we've got this sort of coat that the horse is wearing. I have been told that that would be a padded coat that would help protect it from things like shrapnel and stuff like that, which is great. And we've also got some solid metal plates on the front here as well. Big solid chest plate for the horse there with the skull and wings on it. Solid armor on the front of the horse's legs and on the sides here. And we've also got some solid face armor as well. If this guy doesn't get a 4+ save for all the armor, I'll be really surprised. But from what I've been told, these guys will have a 4+ save. Now, speaking of stats for this model, I have had a couple of people reach out to me and tell me stats for the Rough Riders. However, interestingly, the profile has been different between both of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read both of the potential stat lines for these models out, and then when the codex actually drops, or if we get some more official leaks, it'll be interesting to see which one turns out to be true. So the first one that I was told is that they're going to be movement 12, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 4+, strength 4, toughness 4, 2 wounds, 2 attacks. They've got las guns and las pistols, and also obviously you've got the hunting lances, which we've seen. Apparently the cavalry saber will have +1 strength, -3 AP, and be 2 damage, and also that these guys are going to ignore all movement penalties for move, charge, and advance rolls, as well as gaining +2 strength on the turn they charge. Well, we've seen that from the Melter Lance. Apparently, these guys are going to be 100 points for 5 of them, and you're going to get 20 points per extra man. And you can take 10 of them in a squad. So that means it'll cost you 200 points for a big squad of 10 Rough Riders. The second profile is very similar in terms of the abilities, but the stat line itself is not as exciting. So the second profile I've been told is that they're only going to have a movement of 10. They're only going to be weapon skill and ballistic skill 4+. They're only going to be strength 3. They're going to have 3 wounds, but they're only going to have 1 attack. So it's up to you which one you think might be legit. I genuinely don't know. Those are quite different stat lines. I would hope it's the first one because the first one sounds really good. But I'm kind of expecting it's going to be the second one because, you know, this is the garden. We don't normally get nice things. Now, speaking of stats and combat capability, we've also got this lance up here. And I have to say, I really like the look of the frag lance. It's probably my favorite looking out of all the different lances that GW have shown off. And they've also shown off some rules for the different lances that you can take as well. So the frag lance is what I would say is a new kind of lance. It's a bit different to what we've traditionally seen. The hunting lance has always been like one hit, but very hard. And GW have gone, actually, here's a couple of different lance types that you can take. So the first one is the frag tip, which is strength user AP -1 damage. But each time you get a hit, you get 2 additional hits. That's kind of like super Tesla, because Tesla's normally if you get a 6 to hit, you get 2 additional hits. This is just if you get a hit. Not a 6 hit, just a hit. It's exploding like potentially 3s or exploding 4s. It's really, really cool. I actually think the frag tip could be really good for clearing through large blocks of enemy chaff. I mean, anything from fire warriors or guardians or even orcs, through just pure weight of numbers, you're probably going to take quite a lot of them down. Especially if these guys have got 2 attacks each hitting on 3s. That's going to be really, really big. But we've also got the melter tip here as well. And that is your traditional big punchy hunting lance. It's +2 strength, it's -4 AP, and it's a flat damage 3. That's really good. Again, if these guys have got 2 attacks each and they're hitting on 3s, which is my, profile I really hope they do have, that's going to make these guys statistically be able to just like pick up any medium vehicle in a charge, which is really, really cool. So, and that's the way it should be. I mean, if you've got 10 rough riders just slamming a bunch of melter lances into the side of maybe like a rhino or something equivalent to a rhino, they should be able to pick it up relatively easily. I think another thing to note is that these guys are actually going to be surprisingly good at taking down enemy knights, which is cool because these guys are kind of like our knights. So it's like, knight player turns up like, oh, look, I've got Imperial Knights. Like, no, I've got the real Imperial Knights, man. So I really think that's cool. Like, because if you go, I think statistically someone worked out, if you've got this, and then you've also got fixed bayonets order, and if you can apply that to cavalry, you should be able to pick up an armiger on a charge pretty reliably. Now that's pretty cool if that is true. Now aesthetically, I'm not a big fan of the aesthetics of the melter lance. I think that I'm going to be designing mine and building mine with frag lances. But what's really cool is you don't have to pick pre-game what lance you're running. It says here, before selecting targets, select one of the profiles below to make attacks with. So you can model all of them with your preferred type. So it looks like, oh, all mine are going to have frag lances. But actually, when you charge, you get to go, you know what? I'm going to pick the melter tip today. Or actually, I'm going to pick the frag tip this time round. So it's really cool how you can use the hunting lances and they're not one use only. And you can switch between tips throughout the battle as well. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, we can see there's a third kind of lance that GW hasn't given us the rules for. Looks like some kind of Tesla or Haywire lance. Not sure what that's going to be, because obviously the melter tip's meant to be the anti-tank version, but it's kind of more like anti-heavy infantry because your strength is likely to cap out at 6. So I think that maybe there's going to be a Haywire lance as well that's going to be specifically very good at dealing with vehicles. But it'll be interesting to see if that is a Haywire lance or if it is a Tesla lance. We can also see the cavalry saber down here that was mentioned before. Looks like that's going to be a sergeant only upgrade. But overall, I do think that it looks pretty cool. And like I said, it looks like it might be a damage 2 power sword, which is kind of cool. Now, there are another couple of hints that GW have dropped in here. So firstly, we have had the first confirmation of the Platoon keyword. I said this in my leaks that the Platoon was going to come back in a different format. It was going to be a keyword, maybe some kind of special detachment. And look at it. You've now got confirmation that Morning Glory isn't full of shit and that the Platoon is coming back in one form or another. What's really cool about this is that GW has also confirmed that Rough Riders will be able to receive orders from Castellans and other officers. That means if the orders that have been leaked to end up being true, you'll be able to give these guys the fixed bayonets order, which will allow them to get a +1 to hit and +1 AP. That starts making things really tasty when you're like, hell, hang on, AP -2 on those frag tips, that could really start chewing through some non-armor of contempt units and even start touching the sides on some standard armor of contempt infantry like intercessors and legionnaires. Or, and against like Sisters of Battle, that's going to be really, really good. It's going to clean through whole squads of Sisters really easily with AP -2 frag tips, and making the melt tips AP -4, that's going to punch through pretty much anything. Another good thing about these guys being able to get orders, which is even if they only end up with one attack, again, if the fixed bayonets order leak turns out to be true, then what we're seeing there is these guys might only have one attack hitting on 4s, but with fixed bayonets, they'll be able to hit on 3s. But if these guys have the other profile we talked about with 2 attacks and they hit on 3s basically, then that means these guys will be able to hit on 2s with a lot of attacks. So I really hope they have that other profile, because for 20 points a model, they do need to be kind of punchy, considering they're not going to be very durable. Another thing that's really cool is we can see that they've got the core keyword, which grants access to a wide variety of bonuses. So we are getting the core keyword, but hopefully GW is being fairly liberal with it. I was really surprised when these guys had the core keyword. I thought if anything was not going to get the core keyword, it was going to be things like the fast attack choices. But if these guys have got the core keyword, that's a really good sign, a really good indication that GW hopefully has been kind of liberal with it throughout the codex. It's only going to be really obscure things like ogre and bodyguards and stuff that we're not going to have the core keyword. GW also confirming that each one of them is going to pack a lasgun. I think most time you are going to be charging with these boys, but there might be those times when you want to sit back and harass and maybe set an objective or complete an action or something like that. And if that is the case, then having the ability to have a little lasgun and still maybe able to plink some shots off is pretty good. Now, one thing we've not seen anything of is special weapons. Rough Riders used to be able to take a couple of special weapons, and people like to run around with them firing melter guns off into the side of tanks. We've not seen anything to do with special weapons so far. No hints on any of the models in the back here or anything. So I think that there could be a chance that special weapons are now off the table. But we have been given 3 different kinds of lance, and we've been given a power saber as well. So this is what I've been talking about with a lot of these reveals. GW seems to take stuff off us, but then give us something back in return. And I'm okay with a bit of give and take with the new codex. Now, hidden at the end of this article is a nice little hint by GW that they're going to be showing off the Referal Dawn next week, which is pretty cool. Join us next week for another reveal from Codex Matam, a big one. So that's really, really cool. Hopefully it is the Referal Dawn. I thought the Referal Dawn was going to be this week, but apparently it is. Well, obviously it's Rough Riders. I was really surprised they showed off Rough Riders. We have heard lots of hints and leaks and rumors that they're coming back, and I think overall GW has nailed it with this release. Yeah, there are some aesthetic gripes I've got with the models, but I think the hunting lance is looking great. The cavalry overall looks fantastic. I really like the style they've gone for on the horse, and I can totally just change the heads on these guys, and I'll be pretty happy with the base model after that. So overall, I really, really like the look of the Rough Riders. I really hope they get a good profile to keep them, exciting, not only aesthetically but also on the tabletop. I hope they've got some good rules. I really don't want GW to release a fantastic model like this and then the rules be a little bit rubbish. But that's all for today. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you like the new Rough Riders? Do they get a yay or do they get a nay? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed today's video, then please give it a like, and if you never want to miss an episode, smash that subscribe button. Now, if you've really enjoyed today's video and you want to go the extra mile when it comes to supporting the channel, then please consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. One of the biggest perks of becoming a supporter is you gain access to the Mordian Glory Discord, and there's so much going on in there. We've got almost 500 active members in the Discord, and we just talk about loads of different stuff. Leaks and rumors have been circulating around there for ages. There's loads of great information there. There's also more tactics, lore, painting, and just general chit chat. And we actually run events as well. So at the moment, we've got a painting competition going on to help us clear our backlog before the new models drop. And then when the new models drop, we're going to be running another painting event where you can compete against other regiments to get your models done and on the tabletop as quickly as possible. So if all that sounds like a whole load of fun, please consider becoming a channel member and Patreon supporter. And I just want to take a moment to say a big thank you and a shout out to the latest channel members and Patreon. So a huge thank you to Ray, Yaming Heng, Meet Me Halfway, John Williams, Ed Osling, O Harbert, Naga Sander, Luke Dodson, Core Swain, Texas Red, Quambium Data Fortress, Klaas Morin, Like Your Cut G, Andy Hilton, Evan Winstead, Christine Dykman, Top Down Tabletop, Sean Mulligan, Soul Hall, and Nerdily Delicious. Thank you guys for becoming channel members. Thank you for doing your part. And of course, a thank you to the latest Patreon. So Big 07 for Jason May, Thomas, Texas Red, The Sound Man, LARP Analysis, Madcap Miguel, Fox T, Josh, Glenn Torp, Isaac H. Chapman, Christian Chadwell, and Evie Wilkinson. Thank you guys for your ongoing Patreon support. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreon supporters. These are the War Masters, the people that have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty when it comes to supporting the channel. So a massive thank you to Navy Veteran, Philip French, Ross Miller, Tekwal, Alex Dengal, John Stubbs, Nicholas Walsh, Swordfish Trombone, Diesel Fox, Tom Sutton, and of course, August Varney. Thank you guys. Your ongoing support makes a huge difference. I hope you've all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys next time.